It's 11:47 p.m. on June the 5th, 1944, and 5,000 ships are pushing south through the English Channel toward the coast of France. Rain hammers the open cargo door of a C-47 flying low over black water. Sergeant Wendell Castle sits closest to the door, watching the last dry cigarette in his pocket fall apart in the wet air. Behind him, 8 men grip their stack lines. Most of them Castle has trained with for a year. One of them he's known for 4 days. Private Otis Vane sits at the end of the line, a replacement pulled in days before the jump. His static line is clipped wrong twice before he gets it right. His hands don't stop moving. France is 40 miles ahead. If this team doesn't find its feet on the ground, 6,000 paratroopers fall into the dark behind them, with no lights to guide them down. The light by the door turns green. Castle jumps first. Behind him, Vane hesitates, half a second too long, before he follows him out into the storm. The plane hits cloud without warning. The C-47 shudders and drops, and for 3 long seconds Castle can't see anything but gray through the door. The pilot throttles back, fighting to get underneath it. Behind him, the men grip their static lines and say nothing. Then the cloud tears open, and the coast of Normandy appears below, dark and close. The red light clicks on. 8 men rise. Static lines snap onto the overhead cable. Castle checks the man in front of him, feels hands checking his own pack in return. At the end of the line, Vane's fingers fumble the clip once, twice, before it finally catches. The light turns green. Castle doesn't wait. He steps into the wind and the slipstream takes him instantly, the static line ripping the canopy open above him, the shock driving up through the harness. The ground is already coming up fast. Behind him, in the doorway, Vane freezes. Half a second. That's all it is. But half a second at 90 knots is 50 yards of empty air, where a man should have been, 50 yards further from where he needs to land, 50 yards that will matter more than anyone in that plane can know yet. Then he jumps. The ground slams into Castle's boots faster than he expects. He rolls, spills the air from his canopy, and comes up on one knee with his weapon already tracking the dark. Hedgerows close him in on 3 sides. Nothing matches the map he memorized for 6 weeks straight. He's down somewhere he shouldn't be. He cuts himself free and moves low along the hedge, boots sinking into wet grass. 20 yards on, a shape lies half-tangled in its own harness. It's Private Doss, the radio man. A burst caught him on the way down before his boots ever touched French soil. His radio pack lies open beside him, smashed, the equipment they need to call in the drop scattered somewhere across 2 fields. Castle doesn't have time to feel it yet. He closes Doss's eyes with 2 fingers and keeps moving. He pulls the whistle from his collar and gives it 3 short breaths, low and quiet, the code only his team knows. Nothing answers. He tries again. A whistle comes back from his left, then another from ahead. Men rise out of the hedges one at a time, mud-streaked, weapons up, until 5 of them are crouched around him. 5 out of 8. He scans their faces once, already counting who isn't there, and lands on the empty space where Vane should be standing. A shape breaks from the hedge ahead. Vane, stumbling, out of breath, alive. Castle doesn't have time for relief. He waves the team forward along the ditch line, and they've barely covered 30 yards when the night splits open. A German machine gun opens up from a copse to the right, tracers cutting chest height through the dark. Castle drops flat, the others going down around him. Private Halloran, closest to Vane, takes a round through the leg and goes down hard, crying out once before he bites it back. He's 10 feet from cover, 10 feet from Vane. Vane doesn't move. He presses himself into the dirt, hands over his helmet, while Halloran drags himself forward on his elbows, leaving a dark smear in the grass. The gun swings back toward him. Castle is already up, closing the gap low and fast, grabbing a fistful of Halloran's collar and hauling him behind the hedge as rounds chew the ground where he'd just been. He gets them both down safe, chest heaving, and looks up. Vane is still on his stomach, untouched, staring at nothing. Castle doesn't say a word. He doesn't have to. He just looks at him for 1 long second before turning back to the fight. And something in that silence lands harder than any accusation could. The gun goes silent behind them, and Castle doesn't wait to find out why. He leaves 2 men with Halloran and pushes the rest forward, following a lane toward a low stone farmhouse with a single window lit behind a curtain. A scout returns crouched low, 6 inside, maybe more. Weapons stacked by the door. Castle splits the team without a word. Hand signals only. Learned over a year of drills until they're second nature. He takes the door himself. The latch gives without a sound. Inside, the room is warm with sleep. 4 men stretched out on cots. Rifles leaned against the wall within easy reach. Castle crosses the floor heel to toe. Weight forward. The way he's practiced 100 times in the dark. 1 man stirs. Castle is already there, a hand over his mouth, a blade doing quiet work before the man's eyes fully open. Behind him, Vane is supposed to be covering the second door. Instead, his rifle barrel drifts, his breathing loud enough that Castle can hear it from across the room. A floorboard creaks under his boot. Castle freezes, waits, listens. Nothing stirs. It's over in under 2 minutes. 4 men down without a shot fired. Castle straightens, checks the room once, and looks back at Vane. Steady hands, unsteady man, and files it away without saying anything at all. They move fast now, back through the hedgerows to the open field marked on Castle's map. What's left of the equipment is scattered across 100 yards of wet grass. Half the amber lamps, 1 Eureka beacon instead of 3, wire cut clean through in 2 places by shrapnel or luck. Castle checks his watch. Under 30 minutes before the main force crosses the coast. He doesn't waste time counting what's missing. He starts working with what's there. 2 men pace off the field, laying what lamps they have into the rough shape of a T. Castle kneels in the mud with the broken wire, stripping the ends bare with his knife, twisting the copper together by feel more than sight. His hands are steady. His mind isn't. Somewhere behind him is a dead radio man, a wounded man dragged out of the open, and a soldier who froze twice in 1 night. None of that matters right now. Only the wire matters. A round cracks somewhere off to the west, then another, closer. Nobody stops working. Vane holds a lamp steady while Castle splices the last connection, his hands shaking hard enough that the light trembles in his grip. Castle finishes the splice and taps it once. The lamp holds. Overhead, faint and rising, comes the sound every man in that field has been listening for. Engines, still far off, but coming. The T snaps on across the dark field. 7 amber lamps burning against the black, brighter than anything Castle remembers from training. He stares at it for a second, half expecting it to fail, half expecting the whole night to have been for nothing. It holds. The engines climb louder, filling the sky from the north, and then the first C-47 crosses the field dead on course. Behind it, the horizon fills with aircraft, wave after wave, 6,000 men beginning to fall out of the dark and into a field that 8 men, 5, if he's honest about who actually earned it, marked out under fire. Castle lets himself feel it for exactly as long as it takes to watch the 5th plane cross. Then he turns. Vane is standing near the wire spool, watching the sky like everyone else, like he belongs there. Vane doesn't answer. His jaw works, but nothing comes out. Yes, Sergeant. Castle holds his eyes a moment longer, searching for something he doesn't find, then walks back toward the lights, leaving the conversation, and Vane, behind him in the dark. At first light, Castle moves what's left of his team 7 miles cross-country to a stretch of pasture outside a village whose name he hasn't bothered to learn yet. There's another field waiting, this one for gliders, 32 of them, due that evening, loaded with the anti-tank guns the division needs before the Germans figure out how thin the line really is. They work through the day without stopping. Fence posts come down. Brush gets cut and dragged clear. Castle paces the strip himself, counting steps, making sure it's long enough, wide enough, clean enough for pilots who'll only get one look at it in the dark. Around noon, he sends 2 men back with the empty water cans, Vane among them. A short run, half a mile to the well and back. Simple. Vane doesn't return with the others. Castle asks once, gets a shrug, decides there's no time to chase it. The man probably fell behind, probably found another route back, probably shows up before dusk. There's a landing strip to finish, and no minutes to spare wondering about one soldier. He doesn't know that a German patrol found Vane on the road an hour earlier. He doesn't know Vane is already sitting in a farmhouse 3 miles away, hands zip-tied behind a chair, being asked questions in broken English he's too frightened not to answer. The German officer asks the question a 3rd time, quieter now, almost patient. Vane's hands are shaking against the ropes. He tells himself it's just coordinates, just a field, nothing that means anything by itself. He gives them the location. The officer nods once, writes it down, and leaves him sitting there in the dark with what he's done. 3 miles away, Castle's team has no idea. They finish pacing the strip as the light starts to fade, hammer the last Eureka beacon into the corner post, and set out pots of green smoke to mark the wind for pilots, who'll be coming in low and fast within the hour. Castle checks his watch, checks the sky, allows himself one thought about Vane, probably lost, probably fine, probably back by morning, and pushes it aside. He has no way of knowing that a runner is already moving word of the field's exact location back through the German line, or that soldiers of the 91st Division are beginning to slip into the hedges around the strip a few men at a time, patient, unseen, settling into positions that will still be there when the gliders start their descent. By the time the sky darkens fully, the strip Castle spent all day preparing is surrounded on 3 sides, and every man standing on it still believes it's safe. The gliders appear low over the trees, 32 of them cut loose from their tow planes, gliding down silent and slow toward the strip Castle spent all day clearing. He watches the first ones line up clean, and for a moment he lets himself believe it's going to be an easy night. The Germans let the first 3 get close before every rifle in the hedges opens fire at once. One glider takes a burst across the cockpit and cartwheels into the tree line. Another overshoots and slams into the hedge, plywood and canvas folding like paper. Castle is running before the wreckage stops moving, tracers cutting the air around him. He reaches the second glider first, hauls a stunned man out through torn fabric, drags him clear, goes back for another. A burst catches him across the arm. He barely feels it. He gets the second man out, starts back for a third, and a mortar round throws him sideways before he makes it 10 feet. He hits the ground and doesn't get back up on his own. Later, in a hospital bed in England, a runner from his unit tells him what they found. A German patrol report, a name, a location given up under interrogation the day before the ambush. Castle stares at the ceiling a long time. Vane is gone, deserted, and there's nothing left to do with the fury except carry it.